were you finding that you had to really adapt and think about the way you played, or because I know that you played a lot of jazz and Latin and stuff from an early age.
Yep.
From an early age.
Well, cool.
Do you think that sort of training came in handy for this gig?
So.
Yeah.
I think so, but not in a direct way. Just in a way that, I never particularly sat down and worked on sort of left hand hi-hat patterns. You know, I'm right-handed, so you know, I didn't necessarily sit down and think about open-handed playing and whatever. Definitely the coordination that I've done over the years, you know, the Gary Chafee books that I think we all do. Yeah, great. But I think what also happens is you're in a situation where people are waiting for you to play it, and you just have to do it, and so you figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
We're doing a cover of a very famous tune, which I probably can't say right now, but comes to the show, you'll hear it. And there's a cowboy pattern on it, which is basically a Cascara pattern. But I don't think anyone in the studio at that particular time when it was being recorded went, let's put a Cascara pattern. They just, you know, they played the cowbell, sounded great, done, thank you very much.
Right.
But, you know, those kind of things, as someone who is, you know, semi-schooled, obviously I recognise it as what it is. But,
sure.
you know, again, I think it's just a case of going, that's that pattern, play it, make it happen.
Yeah.
You know.
That's interesting. Can we go back to how it all started? You've been playing with Kylie since 2010.
Yep, that's right.
How did the hookup come about in the first place?
End of 2009, we'd finished the promo and touring run with Duffy, and I got a phone call from a keyboard player friend of mine who had actually asked me to audition for Kylie back in 2007, but I just started playing with Duffy, so I wasn't available. So they asked me, would I be up for auditioning for this French artist? And I thought, okay, well, it's a bit, you know, I'll be going out with Duffy again. Yeah, but all right, I'll listen. And then she said, the arranger is Steve Anderson, and my ears pricked up, and I thought, I'd really like to meet Steve Anderson, because he, you know, he's someone that I've heard about and I've seen his work, and it's incredible. So I said, yeah, I'll come and audition. And as is always the way, when you don't need something, you get it.
Yeah.
You know, because probably just because you come in a very relaxed way, you play better. It's just a lot easier. Anyway, got the audition, went and did the gig, and it was just a very short tour to begin with. But it was great. It was the beginning of me really getting back into electronics again, and so that, I think, proved to Steve that I was a safe pair of hands when it came to recreating dance music and electronica. And it came at a time when Kylie was releasing an album and was looking to create a new band, and there was some television promo, and it was a sort of natural progression. Deshaun, bass player, and myself just went from Christoph into Kylie's band, and that was it really. We did some TVs, we did a show in Egypt, and then in January 2011 started rehearsals for the Aphrodite tour. So
okay,
it wasn't, Kylie wasn't an audition, but it's sort of, I auditioned for Kylie via another gig,
something else.
Yeah,
it's interesting. But I mean, you're no stranger to playing with female pop stars. I mean, that's kind of your thing.
That's all I played with. Yeah. Yeah, apart from this one French artist, Christoph, it's all been ladies,
Yeah. Just by chance?
Yeah. I'd love to say that I don't work for anyone but ladies. No, it has purely been by chance.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're very lucky, obviously deservedly so, but you're doing what you love. But in an area of the industry where there's still money, you know, the industry is changing a lot, and I'm sure, I'd be interested to hear how the industry has changed since you started out.
Well, guys that I mentioned previously, you know, that I really looked up to and wanted to emulate. I can't speak for them in terms of what they were getting paid. I have no idea.
Sure, yeah.
But you know, it was at a time when you could tour for 6 months of the year and then tour for the rest of the year. It is very, very different now. Not in any way to devalue what other people are doing, and you know, there's some incredible talent around. You know, when I was teaching full time, pretty much, I came across some extraordinary talent, and you know, there are some. What hasn't changed is the quality of musician.
Right.
But I think what has changed is that a lot of times people don't value experience, for example. Experience isn't necessarily currency. It just means you're expensive. And I think across the world right now, and across not just music, but you know, through everything, there is what I call a good enough culture. It's good enough.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be exceptional, doesn't have to be crafted, thought about. It's good enough. You know, technology, for example, there seems to be a sort of built-in obsolescence now that after a year it will blow up and you've got to buy it again.
Yeah.
You know, the first machine that I bought was a iDrum 3. Incredible machine. That was its problem. It didn't break.
Yeah.
People didn't get rid of them. They didn't need to. So no one bought them. They were very expensive. They went out of business.
Yeah.
You know? So this good enough culture, I think, is probably what's dictating and leading, as you say, the change in the industry. I do believe strongly that once the record industry, the record business, figures out how to monetize again the art, then we'll probably see an upsurge. But you know, if you can rehearse in a short space of time and create a great show, I suppose people will think, well, why should we go back to rehearsing for a longer period of time? You know, we're very lucky. Kylie truly understands and values experience and excellence, but it is becoming rarefied air, to be perfectly honest, and that's a shame. I do hope that it changes very soon. You know, Vince Gill said recently that his song, his art, costs the same as an app. You know, and that app could be anything. You know, from the crass to, you know, something brilliant. But it's there's seemingly no differentiation between, you know, art and somebody's heart and soul, and not.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak actually when you put it like that.
Yeah, but it's important to be positive, because without positivity, nothing will change. Nothing will break through. You know, and there's some incredible artists. There's some incredible musicians, and there are some truly incredible people working at record companies who care. You know, I refuse to fall foul of that classic them and us thing. You know, the record industry are ruining music. No, they're not. The people who are taking things without wanting to pay for them are ruining music. You know, business has been business since the dawn of time. You know, I think it's very easy to look at things with rose-tinted glasses, especially art, especially music and cinema, and you know, just because a film is in 3D doesn't mean it's not as good as something that's in 2D. It's about the intent behind it. If you have created it just because you know it's going to be a summer blockbuster and you're going to put bums on seats, maybe that's not going to make such a great film. But it's not because it's in 3D.
Sure.
You know, and just because you're crafting a pop song, it doesn't mean that it has any less value than, you know, jazz music, classical music, whatever it is. You know, people spend a lot of time going back to that electronics thing, and why I play 5 kick drums. Well, someone sat and crafted that and decided that kick drum is there for a reason. Well, who am I to say, forget it, I'll just play 2? You know, so I think that there are people who genuinely care. It's just a case of those voices being louder than the others, and hopefully that will come.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about your education? I mean, I read on your website that you started playing violin from an early age.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, the fact that you mentioned that in your biog means that it's sort of part of your musical DNA, I suppose. Has it influenced the way you approach the drums?
I think it is important to me because, you know, I started playing the violin and I started playing in orchestras pretty quickly, and, you know, I went from the second violin chairs to the first violin chairs. The second violin, I remember a conductor saying to us, really despairingly, because we were playing really terribly, why do the second violins have the most important melodies? Because, you know, it's those melodies that make the other melodies make sense.
Yeah, sure.
And so people go, oh, well, second violins, they're not very good. That's not true. You've got to be as good, but your role is different.
Yeah.
You know. So for me, playing the violin and spending time in the second chair, I think probably gave me a greater understanding of what it is to be a drummer.
Yeah, to be in that supportive role.
To be in that supportive role.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and I do understand that Tony Williams would disagree vehemently. You know, he was always about, you know, the drums shouldn't necessarily take a backseat, and, you know, but it's all contextual, you know. And I think for what I do, really understanding how, you know, playing certain things at certain times enrich the stuff that's going on.
Sure.
On top. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it did, and it enhanced my awareness of melody and composition.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And then you went on a few years later to study with Mark Roberts, was it? Yeah, at the Institute.
Well, I went through, you know, I had some great teachers at school. I first studied with this guy called Andrew Missingham, who, you know, I loved when I was a kid, the burgeoning acid jazz movement. Labels like acid jazz, Talking Loud, that was my bag, and Andrew was smack bang in the middle of that. He was playing with bands like Raw Stylus, Urban Species, Is It. He had this jam night at Bar Roomba on a Monday night in Leicester Square, and that was fantastic, you know. He influenced me massively. But I think up until I met Mark Roberts, I was sort of coasting, really. Actually, slight lie, Paul Elliott.
Okay.
Paul Elliott, who doesn't, I think, get as much credit as perhaps he deserves. I came to him. I'd just been fired by a band, probably about 18. You know, the rug had been pulled from under my feet. But I understand it now. At the time, if I had a great gig, I didn't know why. If I had a shocking gig, I didn't know why. So it was that sort of coasting on natural ability. And after being fired, a friend of mine said, oh, you should see a friend of mine, Paul Elliott. So I went for private lessons with Paul, and he just, I think he made me understand that it's important to respect yourself, think of yourself as a musician, and what that entails. How to practice. He taught me how to practice. I wish I'd known that when I was revising, you know, for exams and things, because it's that thing of, you sit down to practice and you think, I need to practice everything all at once today. Incorrect. You know, if you try and do that, you'll take nothing in. So you've got to, it's too in-depth to go into now, but, you know, you've got to break things up. You've got to be systematic about it.
Sure. Through
Through being able to practice, I did improve massively. What was interesting, going back to, you know, what I think is important to play and not to play, I'd have these great lessons and be practicing and really feel like I was moving forwards, and I'd go into rehearsals and I'd think, oh no, I can't play that. Oh no, that doesn't work. So it got me to a crossroads. Paul got me to a crossroads, and luckily I met Mark, and Mark was where everything started to make sense. So, you know, Mark and his lineage of D-Ream and some Massive Attack and artists called DJ Rap, his knowledge of electronics and his playing, I just thought, yes, I want that. And Mark just took this technique that I had and that was really starting to come together, and showed me that technique is simply the key to unlocking sounds. both in your head and on the drum kit. You know, again, going back to that soundbite thing, people talk about simplicity, simple is best, you know, but it's very easy to say it, but I think you've got to believe in whatever your ethos is, believe it, you know, and own it and stand by it. Often people use simplicity as a sort of a way of being lazy, but what Mark did was, you know, technique allows you to play whatever you want to play consistently.
Right.
If you want to create a sound that sounds crufty and, you know, not particularly together and slick, great, but play it consistently.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
do what you want to do, and be able to play what other people want you to play in a way that they want you to play it. You know, technique has a lot of stigma attached to it. You know, I taught technique at the school when I started teaching there after a couple of years with Paul. You know, and it was nice to be able to show people that technique is not something to be afraid of. Technique, you should be embracing it, because whatever you do next with that technique is going to be better. It's about expanding your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So Mark really opened up those doors, and really opened up doors to bands and artists that I hadn't really heard of and listened to, and, you know, like Cocteau Twins and you know, things like that. And that, yeah, he totally took me, as I say, I was at that crossroads, and he took me, for my mind, to a place that I always wanted to be, but didn't really know it, you know, until I got there.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, I mean, it would be great to see some of this technique and some of your musicality in action. We're going to head next door in just a short while and take a look at your kit, get a kit tour. But for now, thank you very much for chatting to us. It's been a real pleasure. Fascinating stuff. And good luck with the tour.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself. Tom Meadows, ladies and gentlemen. See you soon. Thanks for watching.